you have a problem, just move. You are not a tree. People think they are trees and they have to live with the wrong decisions. If they just made one wrong turn, now you have to live with that turn for the rest of your life. I don't believe that. I really believe it's okay to make a bad decision, but it's not okay to live with that bad decision.
This is episode number 73 of The Inspiring Talk with energy healer Sidra Jafri. Welcome guys to The Inspiring Talk. My name is Vijay Gautam. I'm host for this show. Each week I interview today's most successful and inspiring personalities to help you realize your inner potential. I have been asking questions to people on this podcast for over 2 years now, trying to understand their journey and know them, who they are as a person, to make sense of their journey and connect the dots of why they became who they are. But last month, I realized I have never asked myself questions about why I behave the way I do, why I think the way I do, or where my beliefs about a lot of things in my life come from. I also realized majority of us never question our own beliefs and thought patterns. And probably some of those beliefs are not allowing us to propel forward in our life. And we continue to live what my guest for the day, Sidra Jafri, calls a programmed life. A life that you did not consciously choose. The life that you are living with beliefs, behaviors, and values that you developed as a result of your upbringing, such as beliefs of your parents, society, education, and so on. So finally, when I questioned my own beliefs last month, I had several realizations about my beliefs and thought patterns, which I have never paid attention to earlier. And I feel way more relieved and lighter to have those realizations because I could choose to let go of non-supporting beliefs and replace them with more empowering ones. And all of this started for me as a result of my interaction with Sidra Jafri and reading her best-selling book, The Awakening: 9 Principles for Finding the Courage to Change Your Life. Now, Sidra is an international keynote speaker who travels extensively to share her insights on awakening principles. Highly successful energy healer and founder of School of Awakening, a global online school and consciousness hub. Sidra runs her retreat called Soul Spa around the world to help people shift the issues holding them back and transforming lives of many in areas such as wealth, relationships, and overall well-being of their physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual self. On this episode, Sidra demonstrates how you can let go of your non-supporting thoughts and replace them with empowering one using her highly effective tool called ABC, or Access Your Body's Consciousness. We also talk about power of asking questions to yourself, how you can raise your awareness, and a lot more. Without further ado, let me welcome Sidra Jafri. Welcome back inside this episode, my friend. We have Sidra Jafri joining all the way from UK today. Sidra, thank you so much for your time. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. My absolute pleasure.
Yeah, so Sidra, I have heard you speak back in 2014 when I was just getting started with my personal transformation journey. And I remember listening to you and telling to myself that she is so authentic and speaks from her heart. And her aura is so warm and filled with love. And here we are 5 years later having this conversation. So thank you so much once again for being on the show. So
thank you so much. I'm really enjoying this because you actually picked up on the very thing that is the most important in any connection, which is the aura and the warmth. So thank you for picking it up.
Thank you so much for spreading that, and I'm so excited to be sharing the same aura and the loving vibe that you spread wherever you go with my listeners as well. And I'm sure they will be able to feel that throughout the conversation that we're going to have. I think the good place to start this conversation would be by talking about self worth. The whole
Mhm.
journey of awakening for you started as a result of a phase in your life where you were not feeling enough, where
Mhm.
you were not feeling that you were not loved enough or you were not worthy enough. And I'm sure a lot of people listening to this could relate to that particular feeling. So take
Yes.
us there and talk about that phase of life. And we'll go more deeper into dissecting the feelings and where does those feeling comes, from. So first, take us back into that phase of your life and talk to us about what was it like being on that moment.
If I tell you the honest truth, would you believe me?
Absolutely.
So I had the opposite of self worth issues, believe it or not, because the
Mm-hmm.
background I come from, it was a very community based environment where everybody was always talking to everybody. If your mom is not there, then some auntie will look after you, and nani's there and chachi's there. So the in maybe it's my generation, but in my days, self esteem was only thing was for girls really was how good is your color. You
Mm-hmm.
understand how good are you, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's why I did not really question my self-esteem. The thing that really, believe it or not, that really awakened me was when I had everything. I literally, by the grace of God, had everything, and I was sitting there and I was looking at my life and I was thinking, why am I here? Like every single day, literally, is the same day. Every weekend is the same weekend, just with different people. And every year, we're doing the same thing. And that really broke me in a way that I actually thought that I have got my happy moment. I've got really nice kids. I've got really nice career. I am living in a brilliant country. Everything is well, but all is in the well. That
Mm-hmm.
undefinable feeling of restlessness that I'm in some other country, and even though everyone's loving and kind and caring here, but everyone's busy, really
Mm-hmm.
really busy. And that really shook me, and I realized, wow, we really are on the verge of self destruction, because when we are going to the moon and we're mining the moon, and we are unable to realize why babies are being born with brain tumors and why we have mental disorders, so there's something is really missing. That's when I realized, I think it's the awakening to the inside out life that is really missing from us. Inside out life is transparent, it's real. There's no hiding, there's no shame, there's understanding, there's respect. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what got me on this journey. So my journey of awakening had, funnily enough, nothing to do with self-esteem and self-worth. It was to do with love. And
Mm-hmm.
not that I'm not loved, but I'm loving everybody, but no one's loving themselves.
Mm.
And that was my real war. I always say to people, my our war is not with enemies, our war is with friends who have become their own enemies.
So,
So
yeah, go ahead.
I'm saying that's what I personally feel as an unconditional love is a vibration, which is not an emotion, it's not expectation, it's just a sense of beingness, which allows you to just be a good person. We are trying to be a good businessman and a relationship counseling and this counseling and that counseling. I think just be a human first, understand why God gifted this earth, and awaken to the gift that we have. Then we appreciate and respect. Then look at the doom and gloom that's predicting can actually go away if we awaken.
I want to take a step back and we are going to get details of the awakening and we are going to go into the principles of awakening as well. But for somebody to even realize that there is some sort of void or some sort of realization or emotions that's playing within ourselves, we need to have that awareness, right? So could you put it in simple terms for people who might be listening? And the reason that I'm asking for you to put it in simple terms is because there might be a lot of listeners who would be listening to the concepts that you're going to talk about for the first time in their life. So could you please break down what is awareness and how can one improve their self-awareness? Where do they begin their journey?
So awareness is what you know. And the beginning of this journey is that the map of what you know is not the entire world. This is your universe. And you are living, your universe is part of everybody else's world. So awareness is having an understanding that you are not alone. That is the journey will begin. Then if you're not alone, then who is around you? Then you ask quality question. Then most people, when they ask questions, they look their parents around them, and the first time when a baby hears the voice, they subconsciously associate that voice with the God's voice. And I have a feeling that collectively this not good enough feeling, this not worthy enough feeling, it's a misunderstanding from us coming to earth and thinking it's a forbidden apple, but really it was the first apple in the Garden of Eden that was born out of love. So what I'm trying to say that the awakening is really about having that understanding that you have a self. You are not it, you have a self. That's why science has been able to divide it into parent self, adult self, inner child self. I say mother, father, and God self. And once you recognize that there is a mother in you which is always looking to nurture you, there's a father in you that's always looking to guide you, and there's a part of you that is creating this experience here.
Yeah, I think that's a powerful way to put that, and I'm still trying to process that. So there's a mother in you, there's a father in you, and there's a you who is trying to get the experience. I
Who's
think that's a
co-creating? Yes.
yeah, and I think that's a beautiful way of putting that. And going back to what we've discussed a bit, and one of the things that you have said as well about this self-worth and feeling of sense of lack or
Mhm.
fear or any of those beliefs that we have. And on your book, throughout the book, you discuss this, and all of these sort of, let's say, insecurities about ourselves or
Mm,
the fears or the blockage that you have in our life.
mm.
And you say that comes from the cellular memories, and these memories stay as fragments, what you call, right? So could you share what are those fragments? And people have always been telling, like, brain is the is one of organ that carries memories, but now we are talking about the cellular memories, that each cell carries the memories of the event or trauma or any incident that has happened in the past. So could you share what are those fragments and why it is important for someone to understand this if they want to get unstuck in their life and move forward?
Okay, so I'll give you. Have you heard of that theory, Pablo's dog theory,
Mm-hmm.
where
Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm.
they rang a bell and they will give the dog this food, and they will ring
Mm-hmm.
a bell and give the food, and then they realize that the bell is as soon as the bell is rung, that the dog decides or the dog is salivating. That's exactly what memory, remembrance, or recalling looks like in the real world. That the saliva in the dog's memory did not know the food is here or in the mouth or not. As soon as the bell rang, it started to salivate because it thought the food is here. And that's what core memories are. They are your membrane that helps you reference and save time in consciousness. You know how many times do you pop a balloon? Once a balloon is popped, right? You don't
Mm-hmm.
try and reconstruct that balloon and do it. So what you do with those pieces of the balloon, you put it in your cells and you divide them into different pockets of core memories, we call it. And the core memories are only 5. A
Mm-hmm.
love is a core memory. Your fear is a core memory. Your sadness is a core memory. discussed is the core memory. So what are the core memories? When you have these core memories, once it happens, it creates an imprint in your brain. And then next time, even if your brain feels threatened that this is going to happen again, it's create a zzz, like a disruption in the
Mm-hmm.
memory and scrambles the idea of even going there. And that's why I call it ABC, because anybody can understand and go down the memory lane and ask quality question about their belief system, about their laziness, about their fear, anything that they want to find out the answer. They can ask themselves this question, say, hey, what part of me is creating this in my life right now?
So now you are talking about putting those fragments together and probably replacing those memories that you have with the more empowering ones, right?
Yes,
So,
yes,
yeah,
yes.
could you go in detail and talk more about this process, what you call ABC, right? Access your own body's consciousness, and how it can probably help in somebody replace those, limiting, or maybe let's say memories that is not empowering with the more empowering ones.
So can I give you a demonstration? Shall I?
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
I would love that.
So tell me, what's your biggest fear?
All right. So my biggest fear. I have to think. Now,
That's the
so my.
beautiful thing about fears. Fears
Mhm,
don't live in our conscious memories.
mhm,
Fears live in our trigger memories.
mhm.
And so does anger. So tell me, what makes you angry the most?
Let's say when I want to do or achieve something, and when I'm not doing it or putting enough efforts on making it happen, and probably that's what probably make me angry.
Angry. And what's that feeling that makes you angry?
The feeling of not accomplishing something.
Not accomplishing. Okay. So if you could close your eyes and take a deep
All
breath
right.
in. Now tell me if that feeling of not accomplishing could live in your body, that anger, that feeling. Where do you see, sense, or imagine it that it lives in your body?
So I can feel that on my shoulder.
Okay, take all your attention, all your awareness onto your shoulder, and tell me
Mhm.
what number is that feeling between 0 and 10. 10 being it's really intense, and 0 being it's nothing there.
I think it's somewhere around 5 or 6.
Does it have any color?
Mm, is that red?
Red. Okay. And does it have any shape?
Circle?
Circle. Okay. And the texture, can you feel any? Is it a feeling there? Is it an emotion there?
I think it's a bit of a feeling there,
Beautiful
kind of
feeling.
a tickling or something.
Tickling. So allow that red number 5 energy to leave your body. So it's spiraling out, it's spiraling out. It's leaving your body and it's standing in front of you, the
Hmm.
person as a person. If that
Okay.
frustration, not accomplishment, if that feeling could look like somebody, who would you think it would look like?
So should I name a person or?
Yeah, in your mind's eye, that red feeling number 5, it's come out
Hmm.
from the black back of your shoulder. It's come out now in front of you, and it's personified. Can you see, sense anybody or anything?
Okay. Sure, I can
Okay, I'm
see.
asking you.
So yeah, I can see a person standing in front of me,
Okay, is it a male figure or a female figure?
male figure.
Okay, is it you or somebody else?
I think it's me.
Is it a younger you or older you?
I think it's younger me,
And how old is that younger you?
23. Where did
How,
that number come from?
how
Yeah.
does it look? How does he look? How does he feel? This 23-year-old you.
How does, sorry, what was that?
This 23-year-old you that you said
Hmm.
23. Just how does it look? How does it feel? This 23-year-old you. If it could speak to you, what would it say?
Mm. Okay.
Could it speak to you? What would it
Uh,
say?
it's not,
It's not speaking to you.
yeah.
Okay, that's okay. Relax. If you could speak to this 20, did something happen when you were 23?
Not really something that I can remember.
But the number came from you, right?
Yeah. I'm
So
just trying to make sense of why that 23 came out.
that's fine. If you could speak to that 23 number and just imagine wherever the 23 came out, this other conversation will come out as well. So if you ask, okay, what does it mean and how does it represent, what would it say?
It's just blank.
And if you could speak to it, what would you say?
Go away.
So I'm going to say some words, you repeat after me. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Say to that space, thank you
Thank you
for being there in my shoulders.
for being there on my shoulders.
I don't know why you are there.
I don't know why you are there.
I don't remember
I don't remember
what happened when we were 23.
what happened when we were 23.
The good news is
The good news is
we don't need to know.
we don't need to know.
Everything that was in the past
Everything that was in the past
is in the past.
is in the past.
So with love,
So with love,
I release
I release
this consciousness
this consciousness
of red,
of
of red
red,
feeling of inaccomplishment.
feeling of inaccomplishment.
I release it
I release it
and replace it
and replace it
with eternal contentment.
with eternal contentment.
If contentment had a color, what color would it be?
Green.
Green, is it a warm feeling or a cool feeling?
It's a warm feeling.
So imagine that green warm feeling.
Mhm.
You're breathing it in and you breathe out.
All right. All
Once
right.
again, take one breath in again and out. Tell me, how does your body feel?
It feels much lighter.
Wonderful. That's what ABC actually does. It allows you to stop the noise out from the outside and go and listen to the whispers of your soul from the inside. And the questioning technique and the 9 principle are actually like a framework to help you move from one identity center to anyone that you choose to pick.
What we have just done is very powerful. So, Sidra, can you just break down what we have just done for the understanding of listeners who have been listening to us? How does this process works, and what are the if you have to break it down on the steps of what we have done, what would those steps be?
So the steps are very simple. It can be as simple as the palm of your hand. Step one is identify. First, you don't know what you don't know, meaning you have to identify if it's a pain, it's happening in the physical body, there must be an emotion attached to it. If it's an emotion, but you can't find a home, it's like an anxiety or fear. So there must be a body location there, which is you don't know about. So you identify it in your body. That's what we did. We said, okay, if that feeling of inaccomplishment, when you wanted to do, where would it live? You said in the shoulder. So we identified it. Then we said, okay, acceptance. What is it saying? Nothing. Does it want anything? No. We accepted whatever that feeling was saying. Then we
Mm.
then we released it. How we released it? We just let it go. What did we say? We say, I don't know why you are there. I don't know what will happen, but I choose to release you. So once we released it, the third step, then it's important to have the fourth one, which is replacement, because nature
Mm.
fills the void, right?
Yeah.
So we said, okay, if we are releasing this feeling, what are we replacing it with? I said contentment. So if you are frustrated and you're like critical on yourself, then if
Mhm.
you are flip it, who are people who are not self-critical or frustrated? The content
Mhm.
people who are contented. And that's why you chose contentment. So we replace that feeling with content, and the celebration or integration is the breathing in of all the consciousness.
Thank you so much for driving this whole thing and letting me experience firsthand from you. So I think that's just very powerful. And what are the different, let's say, cases or scenarios where people can use this? One is obviously like the feeling that I had, which I shared right here, or what are the other things that probably people can use this ABC, or access your body consciousness technique for?
So thank you. They can use it literally for anything, because it's a way to access your body's consciousness. You can insert consciousness of wisdom, power, love, abundance, or you can release consciousness from your body of, let's say, self-loathing or self-criticism. For me personally, ABC, by the grace of God, has helped people with depression, with bone marrow cancer, with all sorts of, I would say, challenges. And it's also helped some young children who are using ABC to improve their grades, children who are using the colors I'm sorry, to improve their handwriting. So I would say the scope of ABC is very range, and anybody who can actually understand the linguistics of anything can read the consciousness of their bodies.
Whether that's some emotions that you feel which is leaving you stuck. And I think the whole idea of ABC is about not holding the emotions that's holding you back, but rather than acknowledging their presence in your body and then
Yes.
letting them go, and then replace the same emotions, as you said, nature fills the void, and replace with more empowering one that will help you move forward. I think that's a very, very powerful technique, for people to practice and not feel stuck anymore in their life.
Thank you. Exactly. You know how Jim Rohn says, if you have a problem, just move. You are not a tree. People
Mm.
think they are trees, and they have to live with the wrong decisions. If they just made one wrong turn, now you have to live with that turn for the rest of your life. I don't believe that. I really believe it's okay to make a bad decision, but it's not okay to live with that bad decision.
Superb. So now I want to just switch the gears and probably talk about the principles that you have put in a book. And I'm not sure if you remember the conversation that we had last month, where I was saying, Sidra, I don't know what the whole awakening principle is about, and what is it. What does it mean, probably, to go deeper and look within yourself to find answers to your most burning questions? But I must thank you for this beautiful, beautiful book that you have written, The Awakening. And it has helped me tremendously in understanding a lot of patterns that I was going through in my own life. And before we started recording this conversation, I was sharing with you how I had some of the realizations after reading the book and just by implementing the first principle of your book. And as you have beautifully created these 9 principles as acronym of awakening. And so, I mean, before we get into the principles, how do you define awakening for somebody, let's say, who is just hearing this for the first time?
Um, that's a very good question. For me, I would define awakening as awareness, believe it or not. Is when you realize what is there, that is kind of waking up, awakening. It's like waking up. That would be the simplest version of awakening. What happened? I just woke up. I just saw something that I didn't see before.
To add to that, I still have another question, and I think that and being aware of something, for example, let's say emotion of being angry, it's very simple to be aware of the emotion when you are feeling angry, and it's just simple to realize that what am I feeling right now is anger, or what am I feeling right now, and acknowledging that. It's super simple, but still, why we fail to be aware of the emotions when they're happening? Like, is
It's,
there something? Yeah.
yeah, it's because we fail to understand why anger is actually happening, because there's a reason for everything. So anger is just a sign of disappointment, where
Hmm.
where the anger is, oh, I expected something and that didn't happen. And if you're unable to surrender to the situation, then you become angry. The more situation is out of control, the more angry a person feels. So I have a feeling the anger is a result of not being able to let go of the control, and then taking our disappointment out on other people.
Yeah, so just being aware about your emotions shifts a lot of things for you, and that's something that it took me a while to realize. But whether that's taking control of my emotions, and or whether that's being angry, or whether that's any other form of emotions which is not serving you, and just being aware of the fact that what I'm feeling right now is anger, and I should, and why am I feeling anger? and then you start asking the questions, and which is
Yes.
exactly the first principle of your book, right? Ask quality
Quality
questions,
questions.
which is
Correct.
so empowering. And as I was telling you earlier, that I have been asking questions to people on this podcast for over 2 years and trying to peel the layers of them and understand who they are as human. And then
Beautiful.
and after reading your book, I have realized that I have never stopped to ask questions to myself. And then when I did that last week, believe me or not, I came with 10 more questions for that one particular question that I asked myself. And I think
Wow.
one particular question led to 10 other questions, and that those 10 questions came with a lot of realizations. And this is very important, and the point that I'm trying to highlight here for my listeners is to start asking yourself the questions. And
Mm.
Shidra will now would like to go more in depth of what do you mean when you say quality questions, and probably you want to give some examples of what are the quality questions, related to some situation or with some examples.
Yes, sure. First, one of my favorite saying is the quality of our life is directly dependent in the quality of our questions that we ask ourselves and others. And as you said, the examples would be if something's like, for example, you were working on a great project and you went out and you came home and your laptop is missing and it had all of your 2 years of worth or 3 years of your material.
Mm-hmm.
So, as soon as that event comes into your awareness, what do you say or ask? We call it your default knee jerk response. And most of the time, when something like that happens, they go to that negative response and saying, why me? Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why has this happened, God? Why? And then an infinite box of reasoning of because you're not good looking, because you're not fair enough, because you don't have this, because you're asking the reason for your failure in question.
Mm-hmm.
So, as a result, you will obviously get the answers for your failures because that's what you ask. Why did I fail?
Mm-hmm.
So that would be a question to ask when you have done your best and in your absolutely capacity, you have done it. Then you ask the question why and for what purpose, because a lot of time we just ask why but we don't ask what purpose. So another better question, when you somebody says, hey, I want this, why? And then you say, for what purpose? What is the purpose that you wanting things? Because 6 terabytes of information go across the globe, and human species are literally overdosing on indispensable food. So my intention is, instead of creating new things, why don't we find the lost and forgotten gems, which because of the time they are no longer valid or cool? Go back to the original ways of being. African people used to say Ubuntu. That means I am because we are. And the awakening's real essence is actually we. Because when you change all the I, turn all the illness into wellness, when you just change one alphabet from I to E, from willness to wellness. And that's what true awakening is. True awakening is understanding that your body is like an entire universe. And just like a teacher cannot teach a classroom which is disturbing, your body parts cannot function when your body parts are not listening to each other. If your heart is sending a signal out to your brain saying don't make the leg move, and the other part of you is saying no but I want to move, that's when all the mutiny happens and everything goes haywire. So my
Mm-hmm.
way of ABC is not only connect the consciousness of what you are feeling, but also connect the consciousness of your own subconscious mind, your own superconscious mind. Have this collective group of consciousness, pool of information that you can seek guidance from. Because I feel everyone must have their own board of advisors, which is their part of their consciousness that is giving them insight on their blind eye.
Now, looking at the awakening principle, and obviously we would not definitely be able to go into details of each of the 9 principles, but can you quickly, summarize the awakening principles for the listeners, and so that they get a feel of what the whole awakening journey looks like?
Sure. So let's begin with when we said, okay, what happens when you pop a balloon? You become aware. Then you realize your body parts are not just rough; they are actually end centers, 9 chakra centers. So imagine that your central spine has chakras, and it has A in the base chakra, and it says, "Hey, ask quality question," and then you say, "Why?" Because you have to work on you. That's the next, the sacral one. That why do I have to work on myself? Because you should know that awareness is the key to everything. And say, then you go to the solar plexus. That is, awareness is the key. Now you got the key. Say, hey, what do I do with this key? Then you go into the heart. That is knowing versus owning, because your heart is the only judgment parameter that can tell you if this is true or not. That's why the wisdom center of the heart math says your heart is a lot more powerful, wise than your brain. Then after the heart, you open up the key from knowing versus owning. When you owned all the information, you go into the throat. You realize, hey, no judgment. There's a freedom of speech. I can't judge anybody, and there's nobody to judge. That's what your uh, throat says. Actually, I lie. After K, which is knowing versus owning, you enter into and everything is energy. I'm so sorry. My E and I are mixed. On your throat, it is everything is energy. So you opened up knowing versus owning, you owned the space, and then you realize, oh, everything is energy. You can say and speak anything because everything is everything. Then you go into your third eye and you realize, oh, even though everything is energy, but still there is no judgment. I have to use
Mhm.
my discernment. So when you go into your vision eye and you realize, oh, there's no judgment, but if I don't judge anything, then I will be in the abyss of nothingness. So in order for me to actually live in this dimension, I have to use discernment. I have to have choices. So now in the vision center, you have got choices. And that choices brings you to the next principle, which says it takes one to see one. That's your choices
Mhm.
pool. That's the fragmentation of the consciousness that you decide to divide yourself in different pockets. We call it shadow self. And then once you have integrated that, you go into the eighth principle, which is nothing is missing. You realize, hey, it takes one to see one. I've got everything within me. Some parts I can see, some parts I can't see, which means nothing is missing. Once you open the area of nothing is missing, you realize, oh, if nothing is missing here, what do I do? I must grow. I must evolve. And that's when
Mm.
growth is inevitable, comes in the play, because every rosebud must come a flower, every acorn must be a beautiful oak tree. Same with humans, that every young mind must be encouraged and nourished to be something great.
And that's beautiful. And, that's just a glimpse of the timeless wisdom that Sidra has put together on her book, The Awakening. And I've completed reading this book, and I must tell you guys how much information and insight is there, and this book is truly transformative. And especially if you are feeling that you are stuck, whether that's in your relationship, or whether you feel that you are not enough, or whether you feel that you are stuck on your finances, or any areas of the life, these 9 principles help you realize why you are operating those programs, or where those programs even come from. And there are a lot of meditation and practices and daily practices. A lot of them are there on the book, and I highly, highly recommend. I absolutely love the book. So, Sidra, we have already went into detail of the ask quality questions. I want to get into detail of one more principle, and which I think is very, very important as well, and something that we have discussed earlier, is awareness is the key, which is the third principle of your book, right?
Hmm.
And so how can being aware of the certain emotions or aspects of our life help us in moving forward in your life or on the awakening journey? Maybe you want to go in a bit depth of this particular principle.
Yes, awareness is the key, meaning be aware of everything. It's like awareness is knowing how much time it takes you to cross a road and what is the time difference between the cars that are coming. If you're not aware of the length or the time it takes you, then you will miss, and it will be a case of hit and run.
Mm.
You understand? So awareness is the key which unlocks the door of observation. So observation is, I feel, one of the first important quality on the journey of awakening that will really help everybody, because when you are observing yourself, you're not too attached to your own identity. So if somebody says to you, hey, you look like a donkey, you won't sit and cry, and because you are aware what a donkey actually looks like and you are not that. But imagine if you are a beautiful, beautiful, let's say a bird, and somebody has never seen a bird, and they will say, oh, this is a pigeon. And then you start
Mm-hmm.
believing yourself that you are a pigeon. That's why observation is very important in awareness, that you ask always, what else is possible? What else is possible? Who else is there? Because observation and awareness helps you to stay humble. You, if you are not in observation, otherwise you will feel, oh, I'm not good enough because there's no one uglier than me. Or if you are the other way around, you will say, I'm the best, there's no one better than me. And both
Mm-hmm.
sides are the dangerous sides. So it's just enough is the best way.
So just be aware of your
Yes,
emotions
and
to
yes,
everything that's going
yeah,
around you.
be aware and observe. Example, if you're driving a car and suddenly somebody honked the horn, and you have this anxiety coming up to you that you want to feel like cursing that person, just observe and say, is this anger coming from me or someone just honk and the tremor? Because that's what happens. Our fear, our anxiety, they are electronic circuits. They are wires
Mm-hmm.
in our body, and any kind of loud noise or any, they're like a little baby. When they hear
Mm-hmm.
a loud noise, they just tremor. You know how they just get up. And same happens into our internal nervous system, that when it's too much loud noises, the internal DNA cellular memories communication, it breaks down. When it breaks down, then the immune system goes down. That's why, if you notice in the awakening chapters, they are always recommending silence, always recommending meditation, always recommending writing. These are the ways to release those stuck and stagnated observational threats, that you are aware of it, that your child has gone out or some car goes out there and you don't know what's going to happen. So instead of just mulling over and keeping that worry inside, you just write it out, or you just sound it out. Because fear is real. If you keep saying, no, 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 all is okay, but deep down you have a fear, that's when the problems will happen. But if you understand consciously that I know this is not real, but my mind is making it so please help me overcome or transcend this door.
And I think that's a very powerful one because it keeps piling up. And then that eventually, you know, manifest as something, one thing or the other on your body, right? And because,
Exactly. So if somebody asks you what is the size of what is the weight of the coffee mug that you are holding, the correct
Mhm,
answer would be, depends on how long I'm holding it. Because the longer you
mhm,
hold thing, the more heavier it becomes. So same with energy. The longer you're carrying that memory, that information, the harder it is to access it. Especially if it's a guilt memory, if it's a shameful memory, if it's something that you would rather not tell anybody, you bury it in your heart. And that's the memories that carried forward to your children become the genetic coding. And that's why I feel the genes, which are really, really the crux of all form, we have to really be aware of the conscious genetic information that we are saying to our children. A lot of time mothers say these things, money is not grown on the trees, or fathers says, who do you think you are? These words literally go in like a script in a child's
mm.
mind, and they start to live that, they start to believe in that. And that's where the problem is, that we are not even aware of our own words. We are not even aware of what we have been saying to ourselves. And I feel the word observation is not an observation for everybody else, but how am I looking? What's my character? What's my behavior? what's my personality and what's my attitude. Because if you truly want to live an awakened life, you only have to work on four things, and that's your own personality, your own character, your own behavior, and your own attitude. If you
Hmm.
work on these four things, and that's what nine principles does, they help you to work on your personality, to help develop an attitude of a champion.
I want to ask you one more question before we go for the enlightening round. And so you talk a lot about manifesting dreams,
Correct.
and I'm sure you do practice yourself. So how do you manifest your dream, or give something that people listening to this can implement right from today on manifesting the dreams or the goals that they have in their life?
Personally, for me, my favorite way of manifesting dreams is silence and praying.
Hmm.
Because if you really want to materialize something, tell it to nobody, but only to God. And then every day, keep talking to God and reminding God instead of reminding people. You know how we remind subordinates, have you done this? Have you done that? Have you? I allocate a part of me to God's voice and say, God, have you done this? God, have you done that? And I
Hmm.
say nothing to nobody, and it just materializes because God never misses any. God never misses. So that's why I don't even try anybody else. I said, when look at Tirupati Mandir in
Hmm.
India, it's the biggest, exchange of business. And I realized all these spiritual people or conscious people, their best business partner is God. They say,
Hmm.
God, you make my business grow and I will give you this. You go to mosque, you go to church, you go to synagogue, everywhere you go, there is an exchange. There's a light exchange that is happening. And you look around and you find these religious centers and hubs are the best platform to do business with God. And then when that got corrupted, the spirituality started. Right? Can
Yeah.
you see this? I say to people, religious people blame everything on Satan, spiritual people blame everything on ego.
Hmm.
And our
Hmm.
people say everything is on light because everything is energy. That's us.
Now, Sidra, it's time for the enlightening round. Are you ready for this?
Yes, yes.
So, what inspires you to do everything that you do?
My love for children.
Which one daily habit do you believe has been game changer for you in your success journey?
Hug 20 seconds a day. One hug, 20 seconds. Every day.
That's so beautiful. Could you share a book or two that has influenced you personally in the recent past, obviously, other than yours?
Yes. Blink by Malcolm Gladwell. That's one of my absolute favorite. And I really, really recommend Conversation with Gods. I don't know if it's Gods or not, but it's gone by Neil Donald Walsh.
Neil Donald, yep.
I really respect these two books.
If you were to start this journey all over again, what are those three things that you think you would have done differently?
I would screamed a little less.
Uh-huh.
Um, I would listen a little bit more quicker because I think because of my stubbornness, it takes me a lot to be convinced, if that makes sense. So I sometimes you pay for the price after you not listened or heard the first time. So I wish
Hmm.
I had heard sooner. And the third one, I would say that yeah, I wish that everybody experiences the same journey as I did.
Super. I have one last question left for you. But before that, if people would like to reach out to you or know more about your work, what would be the best possible way to reach out to you?
Is a Zoom platform, and the
Hmm.
number, it's a Zoom platform number. It's a direct joiner meeting number 352-367-242. It's an online platform, and it's a flow. People can join. An awakening book club is happening where people are, ABC corner is running. There are people who are living the book and teaching in meditations in Calcutta, in Chennai. We have people who are delivering the ABC to young audiences of 14 to 21 years old. So all are coming together on this flow, just our gift to the light of the divine. So anybody who is looking for a sound, a good sound, a conscious sound, they can join us on Zoom Flow anytime.
Superb. I'll just link that up on the description of this episode. Now, Sidra, here's the last question for you. Imagine that you are standing, and you do a lot of speaking gigs, and imagine that you are standing on this stadium. And this one is the largest stadium that has ever been built in the history of the world. And there are millions of people on that stadium eagerly and passionately waiting to listen to your message. And you have been given only 1 minute of the time to share the most important lesson that you have learned in your life. What would be your message?
My message is that always focus on bones in life. Always pick a funny bone. Whenever you're picking there are 3 types of bone. There's a wishbone that gives you the desire to dream. There's a backbone that gives you the ability, the stamina to grow through life. And then there's a funny bone that allows you to laugh at everything and find comedy in all of tragedy. And I wish and I pray that every single one of us at least have one bone with us, where that's a funny bone. Always keep your funny bone with yourself. Then you'll never be alone.
It has been phenomenal having this conversation with you, Sidra. Thank you so much for your time.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you.
theinspiringtalk.com/73. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode with Sidra. If you did, make sure that you share this episode with your friends and family. I'm sure this piece of information can transform their lives. You can access all the links to resources mentioned on this episode by visiting theinspiringtalk.com/73. If you haven't subscribed to this show, what are you waiting for? Go ahead and do it right now. And finally, don't forget to connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter @BJSpeaks and let me know what you think about this show. Thank you for listening. I'll catch you in the next. Now, go out there and do something inspiring.